7 hours. That was the time the eastern border of NATO was under constant pressure. Drones crossed Poland in several waves between 11:30 p.m. and 6:30 a.m. Many carried no payload. They were decoys. The purpose was to force the defense to react and watch every move. The result? Emergency takeoffs intercepts 4 airports with reduced operations, including Chopin in Warsaw and the hub of Rzeszów, and command centers working at the limit. Enjoy geopolitics without shouting. Hit the like button and subscribe. New videos every day bringing the most relevant topics of global geopolitics. The key point is the unequal trade-off. To stop cheap targets, NATO had to deploy expensive assets, modern fighters, an airborne radar to coordinate everything, and a tanker to keep jets in the air. Allied F-35s carried out most of the confirmed intercepts, supported by an Italian AWACS and a Belgian tanker. Every scramble is costly. On the other side, the expense is minimal. The goal of those who launched the drones was not to cause destruction, but to collect data, reaction times, flight routes, radio patterns, and gaps in the defense. Another important detail is origin and depth. For the first time, part of the drones entered from Belarus. One was tracked near Gdansk, hundreds of kilometers from the border. It wasn't about invading. It was about proving that long trajectories are possible when the other side has to protect many points at once. And even without payload, there was collateral effect. Debris fell on the roof of a house in Lublin region with no injuries. There was no lightning victory, but a test of endurance. Pilots on alert, radars occupied, airports adjusting operations. It was so evident that Warsaw called formal consultations with its allies and accelerated a joint response, Operation Eastern Sentry, to reinforce defense layers in the east. 2 questions frame this video. How much does it cost to react for 7 hours against low-cost targets? And what did the other side learn by watching every NATO response? At 11:30 p.m., the first dots appear on radar over eastern Poland. Small groups of drones enter in waves, changing route and altitude to confuse interception priorities. Minutes later, Polish defense launches pairs of fighters in emergency takeoff. Through the Allied network, NATO puts everyone on the same screen. An Italian AWACS coordinates who chases what, and a Belgian tanker keeps the jets in the air longer. Dutch F-35s perform most of the confirmed intercepts. In the first hour, it becomes clear that many aircraft are decoys. They carry nothing, serving to pull the defense into action and watch how it reacts. With each scramble, controllers must decide quickly what to bring down now, what to monitor, and what can wait. As for origin and depth, part of the drones enter from Belarus, which makes launches cheap for the sender and costly for those who must defend a large territory. Some flights go far beyond the border. One tracked to Gdansk, about 700 kilometers in, others more than 300 kilometers. The message is simple. Long trajectories are feasible when the defender must cover everything simultaneously. On the ground, even decoys cause side effects. Fragments hit the roof of a house in Wieriki, Lublin region, with no injuries. As a precaution, 4 airports reduce operations, including Chopin, Warsaw, and Rzeszów, a key hub for Ukraine logistics. This shows cheap targets can disrupt important nodes of civilian and military routines. Through the night, the pattern repeats. Targeted intercepts, extra attention to deeper routes, and squadron rotation to avoid exhaustion. By 6:30 a.m., records total between 19 and 23 incursions. At dawn, 2 conclusions are clear. The launcher observed everything: reaction times, routes, defense preferences. The defender spent heavily to neutralize low-cost targets. With that, Warsaw concludes it was no stray incident and calls formal consultations with allies under Article 4, paving the way for a joint response. What, in fact, was tested in those 7 hours? Clock and wallet. Whoever launched cheap drones wanted to measure how long defense takes to react and how much it costs to keep that reaction going through the night. Likely points: the time between alarm and fighter in area, shift changes and any drop in pace, preferred jet routes and blind spots needing reinforcement, which sensors activate first and which come later, pressure on airports and how it ripples out, cost per minute, fuel, flight hours, wear on gear and crews. This matters now because it happened just before the Zapad 2025 drills a period of maximum attention. Launching decoys in that window boosts the chance to see defense stretch thin without crossing into open attack. It's the logic of the gray zone: provoke without declaring. The night also sent a clear economic signal: cheap targets versus expensive response. If repeated, defenders spend more while revealing behavior patterns to observers. For NATO, the immediate consequence is clear: make response cheaper and faster without raising the tone. That's where Operation Eastern Sentry comes in, announced after consultations. The plan is to add layers and shorten decision paths to deal with small, slow contacts before calling on fighters and costly missiles. In plain words, use the right tool for the right job, avoiding sledgehammer for mosquito. If you were in charge for one day, what would be your first step? Strengthen low-cost layers, expand anti-drone teams, or invest in energy beam systems? Share your choice and why in the comments. The Allied response is not a shout, it's procedure. Eastern Sentry seeks to lower defense costs and speed up reaction without turning every night into a crisis. Immediately, more eyes in the sky. AWACS coordinating sectors and jets rotating in shorter shifts to avoid fatigue. Reinforcements arrive. More Allied fighters and a naval escort focused on air defense near critical routes. On the ground, known batteries like Patriot move to key points, and helicopters help identify small, low-flying contacts quickly. The goal: fewer coverage gaps and less strain from long hours of response. In the 30-90-day horizon, the order is to set up a low-cost ring around hubs, with posts equipped with thermal cameras, light radars, and cheap munitions to handle small targets before calling costly jets. Dedicated anti-drone teams focus on blocking signals and confusing navigation, cutting response costs. In sensitive areas, energy beam tech filters swarms before they get too close. At airports, the priority is alternate routes and partial pauses, not full shutdowns when waves of decoys appear. The expected outcome: each future attempt teaches less to observers and costs less to defenders. Decision-making also changes. The 2-minute rule applies. Slow, low contacts go to cheaper tools. Only deep or critical ones go up to fighter and missile level. In the first 120 seconds, authority is pre-assigned to act fast on obvious cases, avoiding approval delays. Training focuses on mixed wave scenarios, decoys plus strike drones, to prioritize by effect, not anxiety. The golden rule now is: don't use a golden tool for a cheap nail. The response becomes a staircase. Start with the cheapest, fastest step and only climb higher if needed. Posts around sensitive points combine light radar, thermal cameras, and low-cost fire. Goal: neutralize small targets in seconds without firing an expensive missile. Anti-drone teams jam and confuse signals, cutting navigation. Passive sensors that listen and see without emitting make surveillance cheaper and stealthier. Where risk is higher, point defense with energy beams sweeps close swarms without burning ammo. Process is part of the fix too. The engagement matrix defines who handles simple contacts and who escalates to expensive layers. In the first 2 minutes, decisions are swift. Airports stop fully closing. Partial pauses and alternate routes handle decoy waves. The cycle closes with training and stock, simulating mixed waves for prioritization, keeping shelves full of cheap ammo, spare parts for short-range systems, and generators where energy beam units stand. 3 numbers drive improvement: detection time, time to first response, and cost per contact. The aim: flip the curve, respond fast and cheap while revealing less to observers. The most sensitive piece happens off radar: the message. On one side, Poland and European partners point to deliberate action. On the other, Russia and Belarus cite interference or prior warnings. In between, ambiguity in public statements from key actors. In grey zone context, mixed signals invite repeat tests. The fix: clarity, numbers, discipline. Speak with attribution, according to Poland and the accused side states, to keep debate factual and reduce noise. Short bulletins with 3 simple metrics show technical calm and strip drama: detection time, time to first response, airport impact. One voice among allies, with coordinated Q&A, public maps, and rumor checks, avoids clashing versions. And the deterrence message is direct. The next test will cost less and reveal less. Neither silence that looks weak nor exaggeration that feeds headlines. The middle way, technical, consistent, economical, discourages repetition. It was not a classic attack. It was a measured rehearsal. Those who launched timed the defense. Those who defended paid dearly to silence cheap targets. The shift is to standardize, cheapen, and accelerate, so the next night teaches less to the observer and costs less to the defender. Checklist for 30-90 days. Cheap rings around hubs, dedicated anti-drone teams, point defense with energy beams where it fits. Key metrics: detection under 20 seconds, first response under 90, cost per contact cut to a fraction. In process, 2-minute rule, preset authority, partial pauses instead of airport closures. In communication, daily bulletin with 3 numbers, 1 allied voice, fixed deterrence phrase. If repeated, expect mixed waves, Belarus routes, deep trajectories. The right response is not louder tone, it's procedure, winning on cost and rhythm. Conclusion: swap sledgehammer for mosquito with a staircase of responses. Those who do that turn 7 hours of stress into lasting advantage. Those who don't will keep trading expensive for cheap and giving away data. If you had to choose one immediate investment, would you prioritize low-cost layers, anti-drone teams, or energy beam defenses? Drop your choice and reason in the comments. I'll pin the most convincing argument.